Hello. The story I want to tell you today takes place in the U.S. state of Connecticut. Connecticut has a temperate climate with a long coastline along Long Island Sound, which has fostered a long-standing maritime tradition in the state. Currently known as one of the wealthiest states in the U.S., Connecticut is also home to prestigious institutions like Yale University, attracting elite students from around the globe. In 1986, a peculiar case occurred here that posed significant challenges for investigators. The perpetrator acted and disposed of the victim with extreme sophistication, leaving local police unable to solve the crime for a long period. So, what were the specific details of this case? Let us travel back in time to December 1st, 1986. December 1st. 1986 was a Monday at the start of the week. Connecticut had just endured a massive snowstorm. Despite the harsh weather, people weren't too deterred. Once the storm passed, residents headed out for Christmas shopping. That day, police in the town of Newtown, Connecticut received a call from a private investigator named Keith Mayo. He stated that his client, Hella Lork Nielsen, had disappeared several days earlier. Believing her husband, Richard Crafts, was involved in her disappearance, Mayo contacted the police to request their assistance in the investigation. The investigator also shared additional details. His client, Hella, was a flight attendant for Pan American World Airways. She had hired him months prior to investigate her husband's extramarital affair. They eventually discovered that her husband was dating a flight attendant from Eastern Airlines. Upon learning this, Hell began gathering evidence for a divorce, but she recently vanished and became unreachable. Investigation revealed that Hella had not been seen since November 19th, over 10 days before the inquiry began. Furthermore, her car was found abandoned in the employee parking lot where she worked. Initially, police downplayed the incident, assuming it was a mere domestic dispute, and that the wife had simply left to clear her head. They expected her to return safely, especially since the man accused by the detective was Richard Crafts. He was an Eastern Airlines pilot and a part-time volunteer police officer in town with no known bad habits. Consequently, after receiving the call, the authorities waited until the following day to send officers to investigate. According to Richard's statement, he and Hella had 3 children together and lived as a very happy family. On the night of November 18th, he claimed his wife showed no unusual behavior before he left. They had even planned to take the kids to his sister's house. However, when he woke up the next morning, his wife was gone, leading him to assume she had been called in for an emergency flight. As a flight attendant, Hella frequently flew to various locations, and it was normal for her to be away for up to 10 days. Thus, her absence didn't strike him as odd, though they were experiencing conflict at the time due to mutual suspicions of infidelity. Since they were in the midst of a dispute, they hadn't been in contact, making Richard's explanation seem plausible. Nevertheless, the police felt something was amiss and continued to monitor the situation over the following days. As a result, new clues began to surface, making the case increasingly baffling. The case took place in Connecticut, where Dr. Henry C. Lee resided, a Chinese-American renowned as the modern-day Sherlock Holmes. Throughout his career, he has assisted in solving over 8,000 thrilling and mysterious cases. Eager to resolve the case quickly, the police invited Dr. Lee to join the investigation, and he immediately set to work. He began by looking into Hell's social circle and soon uncovered several leads. The family's 19-year-old babysitter, Dawn Marie Thomas, had abruptly quit right after Hella went missing, which was highly suspicious. Dr. Lee quickly located the babysitter and determined that she was not involved in the disappearance. However, during the interview, he gathered some crucial information. The babysitter recounted being awakened by a strange noise in the house the night before Hell vanished. At the time, she didn't think much of it, assuming the snowstorm outside had caused something to collapse. The next morning, Richard informed her that a series of incidents had caused a power outage during the night. Arguing that staying in the freezing cold without heat was impossible, he decided to move the family to his sister's house in Westport. Westport was about 35 kilometers from their home in Newtown. Noticing Hell's absence, the babysitter instinctively asked where she was and why they weren't all going together. Richard replied, "She went ahead of us." Once they arrived, he dropped everyone off and immediately drove away. He didn't pick them up until 7 p.m., and during the entire stay, the babysitter saw no sign of Hell. The next day, while cleaning, Marie noticed a large black stain on the bedroom carpet, which Richard claimed was kerosene. He immediately cut out the soiled section of the carpet and discarded it. Sensing something was wrong and feeling frightened, Marie quit and went home. Dr. Lee's investigation into Hella's friends and colleagues revealed that Richard had provided multiple conflicting stories regarding his wife's absence. These included claims she went to Germany, returned to her hometown, or was caring for her sick mother. Eventually, he simply snapped, "I don't know where she is." According to Hella's friends, Richard was often overbearing and dominant within the household. He had a foul temper, collected weapons, had several mistresses, and had even physically abused Hell in the past. One friend told police that Helle once said, "If something happens to me, don't think it was an accident. I want a divorce as soon as possible." Based on this, Dr. Lee was certain Richard was hiding something. Richard was immediately named the prime suspect. Police suspected a fatal conflict had erupted between the couple over the divorce. They believed he killed his wife in a fit of rage. As the investigation deepened, more anomalies began to surface. Following Hell's disappearance, private investigator Keith Mayo, sensing foul play, launched his own investigation. Hearing Marie's story about the carpet, he became convinced it held vital clues. After locating the dump where the family's trash was sent, he hired 9 people to spend days digging through the refuse. They eventually found a piece of carpet identical to the one in Hell's home, still bearing a large stain. Upon hearing this, Dr. Lee took charge and sent the carpet sample to the police for analysis. However, by the time the sample reached them, it was severely contaminated from being buried in the landfill. After testing, they were unable to determine if the stain on the carpet was actually blood. When investigators examined Richard's bank and phone records, they discovered several suspicious discrepancies. Credit card bills showed that on November 13th, before Hella vanished, Richard spent $375 at an appliance store in a nearby city for a large freezer. Why would he buy a massive freezer in the dead of winter? What was his intention? The investigation found the purchase odd. The specific model he wanted wasn't in stock, requiring a 4-day wait. The shop owner asked for Richard's information for home delivery, but he refused. 4 days later, he returned to the store and transported the large freezer home himself. Shortly after, Richard's bank card recorded a $900 charge for a piece of heavy machinery. Phone records revealed that Richard had contacted a company to rent a commercial wood chipper. He claimed that several trees had fallen near his house due to the snowstorm, and he needed the chipper to clear them. On November 18, 1986, Richard rented the most powerful and largest wood chipper available. This specific machine was capable of shredding logs and branches up to 30 centimeters in diameter. Bank records from November 19, 1986 indicated that Richard had purchased a brand new set of bedding. By this point, Richard's actions were clearly irrational and highly suspicious. However, without concrete evidence or Hella's body, the police were unable to take further action. On December 26, nearly a month after the initial report, a search warrant was finally approved. Taking advantage of Richard being away on a family trip, police searched his home and uncovered several incriminating leads. First, the carpet sample from the landfill perfectly matched the cut edge of the carpet in Richard's master bedroom. Second, They discovered trace amounts of blood. Dr. Lee found 5 faint spots on the corner of the bedroom bed. Tests confirmed the blood was type O, matching Hella's blood type, and it was determined not to be menstrual blood. Third, numerous large towels were found in the bathroom, many of which tested positive for the presence of blood. This evidence pointed toward Hell's murder, yet the question remained, where was her body? Under U.S. law, a suspect cannot typically be convicted of murder without a corpus delicti or proof of a body. Consequently, Dr. Lee decided to subject Richard to polygraph tests, which he successfully passed 3 times. Was Richard truly the killer? Dr. Lee remained convinced his analysis was correct. He grew skeptical of the polygraph results, a device that records physiological changes like respiration, heart rate, and blood pressure, to determine if someone is lying. However, with professional training, one can stay calm enough to beat the machine. Further investigation revealed that before becoming a pilot, Richard had served in the Marine Corps. He had even worked for the CIA, carrying out numerous classified and covert missions. This meant Richard was like a real-life James Bond, professionally trained in interrogation techniques and capable of lying with total conviction. For a man like Richard, passing a polygraph was likely as simple as a routine daily task. Just as the investigation hit a dead end, a seemingly unrelated piece of news surfaced that would change everything. As the case gained international media attention, the police faced immense public pressure to find answers. Amidst this, Dr. Lee's team discovered a bizarre event that provided a fresh lead for their search. Months earlier, a disturbing incident had unsettled local residents. A man had become so enraged by his neighbor's barking dog that he took drastic action. In a fit of rage, he caught the dog and threw it into a wood chipper, which tore the animal into pieces. The incident was reported in several newspapers and became widely known throughout the community. This story reminded the investigation team that Richard had also rented a heavy-duty wood chipper. Upon further survey, they found a witness named Joseph Hine, a highway snowplow operator. Joseph recalled that during the heavy snows of that period, he had been assigned to the night shift to clear the highways. Around 3 a.m. on November 19th, he saw a driver passing by, towing a large wood chipper toward Lake Zor. The man also stopped by the side of the road for a while. Joseph wondered at the time, why would this man brave a snowstorm and go out at night to chip wood? It's bizarre. Consequently, the man left a deep impression on him. When the police showed him photos for identification, Joseph immediately recognized the driver as Richard. With this information, the investigation team formulated a new hypothesis. Richard likely transported his wife's body to the lake's shore and disposed of it using the wood chipper. Upon discovering this crucial detail, the team immediately focused their efforts on Lake Zor. After several days of searching, police found scattered wood chips along the shore. Fortunately, along with the wood chips, they also discovered some scraps of paper. The paper bore Hella's address information, suggesting this was indeed the disposal site. However, Lake Zor is vast and deep. Conducting a comprehensive search was like looking for a needle in a haystack. Just as the situation grew difficult, Dr. Lee devised a unique method. He rented a wood chipper identical to the one Richard had used and purchased a processed pig carcass. After freezing it, he threw the pig directly into the wood chipper. He used the distance the crushed pig bones were ejected to determine the potential disposal radius. Ultimately, the experiment proved that debris ejected from the wood chipper could only travel a maximum of 4.6 meters, with lighter materials landing closer to the shore. This experiment essentially established a relatively clear search area. Based on these clues, the police organized a search team, dividing them into 2 groups. One group searched along the lake shore using nets, while the other consisted of divers searching the deeper waters. To facilitate the search, they also requested and received permission from the authorities to lower the water level in the lake. Finally, through their meticulous investigation, the police discovered Hella's body. More accurately, they found the fragments that remained after she was shredded. The police recovered a total of 2,660 strands of hair, 69 bone fragments, 2 teeth, a piece of skull, a fingernail fragment, a toenail fragment, and more. Even more importantly, they found a chainsaw at the bottom of the lake. The investigation team also found microscopic skin fragments on the saw blade, along with blonde hair and some blue carpet fibers that matched the carpet in Richard's home. However, the serial number on the chainsaw had been carefully filed off. Using a special acid process, the team soaked the filed area, revealing the erased serial number 5921616. When cross-referenced with Richard's chainsaw purchase receipt, the numbers matched perfectly. At the same time, the hair samples were compared with those of Hella's family, showing identical characteristics. At that time, DNA testing technology did not exist. Identifying a victim relied entirely on body recognition, making it extremely difficult when a body was fragmented like this. The discovered fingernail fragment was chemically compared to a bottle of nail polish on her vanity, yielding a perfect match. The recovered teeth were also examined by Hella's personal dentist, who confirmed they completely matched her dental records. Police theorized that Richard struck his wife at least twice with a blunt object in the bedroom. To avoid detection, he devised a plan to dispose of her body using the wood chipper. Doing so would make the body unidentifiable. However, a wood chipper would struggle to shred soft tissues effectively. Therefore, he bought a large freezer and placed his wife inside. Once the body was frozen solid, he used the chainsaw to cut it into multiple pieces, then ran them through the wood chipper, spraying the remains into the lake for fish to eat, effectively erasing all traces. On January 13, 1987, the Connecticut State Medical Examiner's Office received the evidence provided by the police and issued a death certificate for Hella. Richard, who had consistently concealed the truth, was immediately arrested. This case caused a massive sensation across the United States. Due to its intense media coverage, the legal proceedings faced numerous turbulent challenges. In May 1988, the trial had to be moved to New London. Over the next 2 weeks, more than 100 witnesses testified in court, and over 650 pieces of evidence were presented. After a grueling 54-day trial, the jury deadlocked with 11 jurors finding Richard guilty and 1 voting not guilty, resulting in a mistrial since he refused to confess. On November 21, 1989, nearly 3 years after the incident, a second trial took place in Norwalk. With clear witnesses, evidence, and testimonies, the jury concluded that Richard was guilty, and he was sentenced to 50 years in prison. On January 30, 2020, after serving 31 years in prison, Richard was released and moved to a halfway house in Bridgeport, about 32 kilometers from his old home. He was released early due to good behavior, which allowed his sentence to be shortened. Why did this case attract so much attention? Partly because the method of the crime was incredibly brutal. More importantly, it was the first case in Connecticut's history where prosecutors secured a murder conviction without a body and without a confession. Ultimately, the conviction was established entirely based on forensic investigation and gathered evidence. The case was solved not only thanks to Dr. Lee's brilliance, but also through the dedication of every police officer involved in the investigation, as well as Hella's private investigator. Behind every murder case, there is at least one victim and a grieving family. Today's video ends here. See you in the next ones. Goodbye.